Hi, this is Carrie Brownstein.
This is DJ Premier.
This is Darren Aronofsky.
You got the RZA right here.
Rose McGowan.
Radiohead.
Aisha Tyler.
Tribe Called Quest.
Fred Armisen.
Fritz Paul.
Javier Munoz. Seth Meyers.
Frankie Cosmos.
Flying Lotus.
Hi, we're Chaim, and you're listening to the Talkhouse Podcast. Ow!
Hello and welcome to the Talkhouse Podcast. I'm Josh Modell. On this week's episode, we've got a pair of songwriters who broke out in the 90s and early 2000s and have had fruitful careers since, and who happen to be old pals, Ben Kweller and Brendan Benson. As you'll hear in this chat, Kweller got his rock life started early, learning guitar as a teenager and hustling hard for gigs in the small Texas town where he grew up. His first band, Radish, got a big record deal while Kweller was still a kid, and while they never exactly blew up, there's definitely some love out there for the band's early records. Kweller went solo in the early 2000s with the classic album Sha Sha, which was an early release on Dave Matthews' record label ATO, and which last year got the deluxe anniversary reissue treatment. Kweller has had a run of great records since, and was in a supergroup for a while called the Bens, with Ben Folds and Ben Lee. He also started a music collective called the Noise Company, which is a sort of hybrid studio management record label. They're having a big blowout at this year's South by Southwest, so if you're down there, it's at the Mohawk on March 15th. Check out a little bit of a great Kweller song right here called American Cigarettes.
American cigarettes, silver can regrets. I bought you this little dress, unimpressed. You put my love to the test.
Brendan Benson, as you'll hear in this chat, is a bit older than Kweller, but he's had a similarly remarkable career. His debut solo album came out back in '96, but if you're looking for a place to start with his driving rock songs, check out 2002's La Palco. Benson has 8 solo albums to his credit, including 2022's Low Key, but he might be best known as the co-frontman of the Raconteurs, along with his old friend, bandmate, and Detroit area native Jack White. Now check out a great Benson track from earlier days right here called What I'm Looking For, and catch him at the Noise Company Showcase this weekend as well.
I've got friends who have married and their lives seem complete, and here I am still stumbling down a darkened street. A darkened street. And I act like a child and I'm insecure, and I'm filled with doubt and I'm immature.
These two old pals sound delighted to be chatting, and they jump right into an unplanned episode of Car Talk. Kweller, as it turns out, might get himself a Tesla Cybertruck. They also talk a lot about the spark of creativity that led to their chosen careers, and they each mention the embarrassing first songs they ever wrote. Kweller tells a great story about hearing Smells Like Teen Spirit for the first time as well, and Benson admits that the Three Stooges have had a huge influence on how he harmonizes. Enjoy.
Brendan.
Benny. What you want to talk about?
What you want to talk about? Well, we're both in our studs.
Yes.
We're in the
couple of studio stooges.
You're in
Forever.
Nashville.
I am. Yep.
I'm in Texas. I'm in Dripping Springs, which is outside of Austin.
I'm looking forward to coming out and seeing your place.
I know. You're going to be here, I think, in a week or so.
Yes. We got a new vehicle for it. We just got ourselves a big Suburban, Chevy Suburban.
Oh, did you go new or used?
Oh, it's brand new, dog.
Love it. What color?
It's like I didn't pick it out. It's really kind of my wife's car.
Yeah.
I guess. But I think next vehicle we get will be a pickup truck for myself.
I've always been a van guy, obviously because of music, vans are just so nice.
Yeah.
Because you can move a lot of people.
Right.
And cargo. I did have a pickup truck. Actually, I used to have a dually. I had a Dodge dually, with the four wheels in the back. I know. It was a diesel, a first gen Cummins engine. It was pretty baller. It was a 1992. It was like an old man truck.
Yeah.
It was so loud though. And inside when you're driving it, it was just so loud. You couldn't even have a conversation.
Our Suburban is diesel.
No way.
But it's quiet as hell. It's really quiet. I don't know what they do.
Because that's the Duramax, bro. That's the Chevy Duramax thing.
That's right.
That's right, dude.
I love the diesel. We can get 600 miles to a tank. And the tank's regular size, whatever.
Yes.
It's nuts. You can drive, we could drive from Nashville to, Florida on a tank of gas. I can't believe we're doing car talk. But okay, let's go with it.
But we'll start there. My daily driver is a Toyota 4Runner. Okay.
Oh yeah, yep.
And it's this color that's really cool. It's called Voodoo Blue. So it's like very blue. But what's great about it is I always find it like in the at the airport parking lot or what. Like it's easy to find. And then I have my van, which is an old Sprinter, like an old before they were Mercedes. They had the Dodge emblem.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but like the motor is still a Mercedes. But here's the thing. So Liz, my wife, she actually got a Tesla 2 years ago, the Tesla Y.
So did Britt. This is funny, okay.
Dude, okay, so the Tesla Y, dude, this thing is the best car I've ever driven. Like, it is so fun to drive, so easy. You never go to a gas station, charge it overnight at the house. Like, I'm in love with this Tesla. Okay, so a few years ago, when they announced that a really obnoxious Cybertruck, the ugliest car ever to be made.
But I hear it's insane. Insane.
Well, that's the thing, dude, because it's going to be insane. But even though it looked like some RoboCop shit, like Terminator shit, I put in the $100 like for the deposit because I'm like, fuck it. So, dude, 2 days ago, I got an email from Tesla saying that my Cybertruck is ready if I want it.
Oh.
And so now I'm like, dude, do I sell everything like the 4Runner and the Sprinter? And because these things are like almost $100,000, which is like the most absurd, like to spend that much money on a vehicle. So anyway, long story short, like I might get this Cybertruck. I don't know. I'm kind of tempted.
Dude, I would love it if you got a Cybertruck and I could come drive it. They're pretty weird looking. Like I don't know if I don't think I'm too into the way they look, but I'm really curious that I just hear like raving reviews. Like they're so cool inside. They're so fast. They're just so powerful.
So why did you guys get a Suburban? Was it like you just needed a big family car?
Yeah, we were traveling so much. We go, with kids sports. My kids are doing these travel sports. So a lot of times we're driving just so far and we need all the gear and like you say, the Tesla you can't. It's kind of scary to be driving far. We tried it a few times and it, so like a 4-hour trip takes you like 8 hours.
Right. You just gotta find those superchargers, right? Which is a pain.
And then you end up at superchargers, which is like spending more money because you're by a Target. You got 30 minutes. You might as well just go in the Target and see if you need something. Yeah. Right. Ooh, and the Suburban has the 2 sunroofs or whatever, moonroofs, whatever they're called. So that's kind of nice.
That. I do like that.
But I will say, let me do a little bitching here about the Suburban because I'm not a tech guy, man. I don't like it's a Google mobile. It's all Google based, Apple. It's like it's weird because it's kind of both. Like to get you get to play music, I gotta be like hooked up to Apple CarPlay, CarPlay, shit, or like and everything's Google, and you gotta ask Google what to do, and I don't know, man.
Dude,
you gotta abide. Nice. Like you can't drive without first. I mean, occasionally I'll get this message that says, remember to pay attention while you're driving, okay? Like, and you have to press okay, or it doesn't go away. It's just sort of like what the hell, man. I'm perfectly capable of driving this vehicle without Google's help.
I was just curious. I always think of you as being from Detroit, because you lived there when we first met, 20 years ago or whenever it was. Were you born in Detroit?
No, I was born.
Are you like a Michigan kid?
I was born in the suburb of Detroit, Royal Oak, Michigan.
Okay.
Which is like, just like it's like 12-mile road, which is, 8-mile road is where Detroit begins.
Yeah.
4 miles from Detroit. But yeah, I just partied in Detroit all the time as a kid. Always went down into the city and went to St. Andrews and saw shows and the Greystone to see punk shows, tracks, and
wasn't there a place called the Magic something? The Magic Stick?
The Magic Stick. It was like
and there were like 2 Magic places, right?
Yeah, the Magic Bag was in Ferndale.
Okay.
And the Magic Stick was in Detroit. And the Magic Stick was a big complex. Like, in fact, the Majestic was next door. It was part of the same complex. I think where they get the name Majestic, Magic Stick. And then the Garden Bowl was also part of this complex where you could bowl, but also there were shows there, I played a bunch of shows there. You know, it was usually like some acoustic type thing or small affair, you know. Once we set up, in fact, on the bowling lanes, set up a stage and I played with Jack and some other dudes as a band called The Bricks. I think we called ourselves The Bricks, and we did a show on the lanes there, which was pretty fun. People were kind of bowling, you know, people were still bowling.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a place like that in maybe New Jersey too, I think? Did you ever play that?
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
It was like Asbury Park, maybe even.
I've never played Asbury Park. I never played the Stone Pony. That's the classic Springsteen venue, right?
I don't know if I played there. I don't remember names a lot, but I remember Asbury Park just because it's the boardwalk.
The place.
We walked on the boardwalk and it was bizarre. I mean, at that point, like in the 90s, maybe it was mid 90s or late 90s, it was, you know, it was derelict, but it was just abandoned. There was nothing. It was just this boardwalk from years ago, you know, that was the hip thing at one time, I guess. I don't know. It's a really strange place.
Yeah. It's weird.
And then the Springsteen thing, of course, which I was never a huge Springsteen fan, but still could appreciate that when you're there. You know, you feel it. You feel it.
What was it about Springsteen? Was it just like when he came out, was it just kind of like this cheesy Americana thing that you didn't like, or was it big bloated corporate rock to you? Like, what was it, you know?
Kind of all of that. Like it was, I think I didn't know I didn't know him and his early stuff like Nebraska and like, you know, Asbury Park. In fact, that's actually a pretty cool record.
Yeah.
But I only knew him as the Born in the USA guy.
Yeah.
And that at that point, it was kind of like, this is lame, man. This is square, you know, like very, very mainstream MTV.
It was,
kind of darling, you know. And I was at that point probably too cool listening to like punk rock or whatever.
Yeah,
it was. Were you a punk too? How'd you come up?
So I evolved into the punk scene.
Well, you're young. You're a lot younger than I am.
I'm younger than you. My dad is a musician. Not professionally, but he's a doctor. That's what he does for a living, but he loves music, and he taught me drums when I was like 7 years old because he wanted to jam with somebody so he could play guitar and I'd play drums.
That's awesome.
And he'd always say, Ben, you know, all drummers are frustrated guitar players, so I'm teaching you drums so I can play guitar. So
he was a wise man.
He was, and so like when he'd get home from work, I'd get home from school, we'd play every night in the living room music like from his generation. So like I grew up on like all the British Invasion shit and like he's a big Hendrix guy. So like Jimmy, you know, the Beatles, the Hollies. But what's funny is that my dad grew up with this guitar player named Nils Lofgren, who actually plays with Bruce in the E Street Band. But also Nils was, you know, in Crazy Horse, like has played with Neil Young for years and has a whole array of solo albums that a lot of people don't know. So
he's kind of big time, yeah,
he's big time. So my dad was actually Nils's first drummer. They went to high school together in Bethesda, Maryland. And so because of that connection, we did listen to a lot of Bruce, and particularly Born in the USA, you know, so that was like 1985. So, you know, I was little, man. I was like 5 years old, you know, and whenever Nils would come through Dallas, the Dallas area, we would always go and see him. So what that means is my first concert that I went to as a little boy was Bruce Springsteen, Born in the USA.
Okay.
At that young of an age, like I didn't really have much context on like what was quote unquote cool or not cool. I was just a wide open vessel, like retrieving melody and lyric and vibe. You know how it is. Like when you're that young, it's like you just hear shit that like perks your ears or not, you know? And so for me, it was like all like Beatles. So yeah, I did like Bruce. I really only knew that one, you know, like Dancing in the Dark, Glory Days, Fire, like that, I'm on Fire, like that album. I knew that. Then really what changed my shit up was when Nirvana came out, you know, like most people would say this from my generation, but like I was literally at the skating rink. And I'll never forget, like I was making a turn on my fucking roller skates, dude. It's 1991. I'm just fucking cruising. And all of a sudden I hear dan-na-na, chicka-chicka dan-na-na, chicka-chicka dan-na. And I pulled the fuck over and held on to like the side railing. And I'm like, what the fuck
What is this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'd passed the DJ booth, so you can't skate backwards, you get in trouble. So I made another lap, and I went up to the fucking DJ. I'm like, bro, what is this? And he's like, oh, dude, this is this new band Nirvana. And he held up the CD with the little naked baby and the dollar bill. And I was just like, okay, this is fucking game over. So I went to Coconuts the next day in the mall and bought that CD, never mind. And really, so that was like the first band of my generation where I was like, okay, this, because like up until then, it was like all my dad's music, you know? So literally Nirvana changed everything for me. And it was a great band to sort of learn from because they were always wearing t-shirts of bands you never heard of. So like then all of a sudden I'm like, who's Sonic Youth?
Right.
And so then I go get Daydream Nation, and then I learn about Sonic Youth. And then you start learning about the Velvet Underground and the Stooges. And like, really, like most of my punk rock luckily comes from Kurt Cobain and Dave Grohl and Chris Novoselic. Yeah. And I really think like I'm very like, even though, you know, the hardcore Nirvana fans apparently like from that were following them from like the late 80s totally thought they were sellouts, right? Because of Nevermind. And that was like a whole thing, like, oh, fucking MTV, blah, blah, blah. But see, I grew up in a small town, and my only access to music was the radio and was Rolling Stone magazine and was MTV.
Yeah.
So like there was no hope of finding any counterculture.
Where was that, by the way? What small town you took?
It's called Greenville, and it's north of Dallas.
Okay.
So I would go to Dallas to see any shows. But yeah, like Nirvana taught us a lot. You know, so I'm fortunate for that. Grateful or whatever.
Did you get into any other Seattle bands? Did that lead you into any other grunge stuff?
Yeah, I bought Pearl Jam 10. I remember liking Pearl Jam, but not as much as Nirvana, because I feel like that was very much the Beatles, Stones of our generation. Yeah. You know, and like I've always been a Beatles guy more than a Stones guy. And I think that it's songs based, you know, like I just feel like at the end of the day, the Beatles have more unique, memorable songs. I get that the Stones are probably a better rock band or more rock and roll, whatever. Like I love the Stones, don't get me wrong. But if I picked one, it would be the Beatles. And that's kind of like with Nirvana and Pearl Jam. I go Nirvana at the end of the day.
Yeah, they're songwriter bands. I mean, they're like, you know, if they're like us, I think we were always probably more keyed in on the song and trying to listening to that. How did you do that? Cobain had those melodies, Jesus. Man. Oh,
what the fuck over those weird chord progressions? I mean, It was Brian Wilson level. You know, like there aren't a lot of people like Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys and Kurt. Like it's hard to think of too many others that have that knack for weird melody, like beautiful melody over strange chord. Frank Black does it well, you know. Frank Black, like Teenager of the Year is a good specimen of some craft. You know?
Yeah, I need to check that out more. I never got into Frank Black so much. I mean, Pixies for sure.
Sure. I actually prefer Teenager of the Year over any other Pixies release. Yeah.
All right.
And I think you dig it too.
There's a generational gap, you and I think. I feel like, you know, because you're describing all these things. And I'm like, wow, that, you know, like I was into like I heard Nirvana, like Bleach, you know.
You did hear Bleach.
I was so into Bleach. Man.
All right, so tell me.
But I will say that when Nevermind came along, I was not a hater. I was still very much on board. You know, could not deny that record.
Who told you about Bleach? How did you learn about Bleach?
I worked at a record store.
Oh, hello. Okay.
And I listened to everything. I listened to all kinds of music, and the grunge scene. I was heavily into that. I got into it kind of early, and I was listening to like, you know, the Melvins and Tad and
Mudhoney.
Flame, you know, like Mudhoney. Oh, I loved Mudhoney, Mark Arms.
Yeah.
You know, I think those guys are fucking great. And also like Pixies. Like I think I was way into the Pixies, but and kind of lost it by the time I think Frank Black made his solo records kind of later, right?
Yeah.
But so that's kind of interesting. I don't know if our music's similar, but I think we're so similar by design or something. Like
I know.
I always notice it's so weird, man.
We are. It's the aesthetic, like the things that we gravitate to in music. I think are very similar, and then that means that like our output is similar. It's
what about producing? Do you produce much?
I do. I love producing.
Yeah. That's like the next phase in my life, I think.
Yeah, I want to do more producing.
Because I feel like you would be a great producer.
I need to hone my engineering skills a little more. I never really had like a proper education on frequencies and compression and EQ. So I've been, the University of YouTube has been helping me a lot.
Yes,
I'm an alum of the University of YouTube. I even signed up for that like mix with the masters thing where you can like check out like Jack Joseph Puig, talking about a whole mix he did. I mean, there's so much you can learn just on the internet.
The job description has changed,
Yes.
It's kind of, you do need to wear more hats. You need to be the engineer.
You do.
You need to a lot of times be helping perform this shit. Whereas I think maybe in the day, at one point, they were vibe guys. They were just like
sit on the couch.
They lit a candle and shit, and like we're like, all right, go.
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat with you, like trying to get that knowledge that these engineers have.
I know.
Or learn from them or whatever. They're like just different people, aren't they? I feel like they're a different breed of human.
They really are.
They hear things differently. Like I hear things and I think, well, I hear that. I really like that. I want that louder. You know what I mean? Sometimes like I'm kind of emotionally invested, and whereas, not necessarily understanding the role of all these frequencies,
Yes.
Probably one of my favorite things to do is studio stuff, like kind of, produce and engineer. And I, of course, I love writing and stuff, and it's kind of ironic because it's my weakest link, I guess, or, a weak spot for sure.
Well, I feel you. When did you write your first song? Like, when did you say to yourself, like, wow, I can do this thing? And like, what prompted you to write a song?
I think there were kind of two moments, two significant milestones, whatever. One was I was trying to play guitar. I was kind of learning. I learned some chords. And so I, of course, joined a punk band.
Yeah.
And with my friends, we played in this band called Smart Bomb. And and we were kind of a hardcore band, and I knew, like I said, just a few chords, and I play them very fast. And then the singer was writing all the songs. He was writing all the lyrics. And then, I don't know, at some point I just said, I had an idea about this song idea. So I wrote this song called Truth Hurts. It's super embarrassing.
Sure.
I was trying to be, kind of, I think a little activist. But, the guy sang the song, the singer sang the song, sang my lyrics, and I thought it was pretty cool.
Did you have a melody or just lyrics?
Yeah, it was more melodic, like than the other songs.
So did you like sing it to him? Did you like sit there with the guitar and be like, "This is how it goes"?
Like, an empty head has no place here. That was the first line. Go back to being nothing. Oh shit, I can't remember. It was terrible. But he couldn't sing very well. He was kind of more of a shouter. He was a screamer.
Sure.
So there came my second epiphany after having written that song, and like, wow, cool, like I wrote a song,
Yeah.
But then I wanted to write a song that was more melodic, that could be sung.
Yeah.
I guess for me to sing it, because I could sing a little bit. So, and then I started writing, songs on my own, away from the band. Not very political or anything like punk or anything. They were just more. I think I was more interested in girls too. I was writing a lot about girls, and
of course.
And I had the dual cassette player, so I could do an overdub. Essentially, I could record myself singing, and then move the tape over to the other thing, and then record. And then it had this little mic mix feature, so I could plug in a mic. I could sing a harmony.
Oh,
and then it was over, man. When I heard that when I discovered, like, holy shit, I just harmonized.
Being able to sing harmony is a very kind of mysterious skill to me. Like, I can do it, you can do it, and my wife Liz is like so enamored by people that can sing harmony, like in the car. So like she's always like, teach me how to harmonize, and the only way that I can dumb it down to teach someone harmony is like to go back to like, okay, if you're looking at a keyboard, like, and you have a C, da da da, the third note, da da, together, right? Did you just innately know how to harmonize, or did your mom do it? Or?
The way I did it was I always thought of the Three Stooges hello, hello, hello.
Oh,
Remember
yeah.
they do that?
Yeah.
That's how I could do it. So I would take the note and I'd very carefully, I'd painstakingly think about the note and then I'd go, so you were, okay, I got to sing you were, and so I do it that way.
Okay.
I never played piano. I never learned keyboard. Did you take lessons and learn?
So my dad taught me drums first. So drums were my first instrument. And then like a year, and I was like 7. And then when I was 8, someone taught me how to play Heart and Soul on the piano.
Yeah, that's the one I learned, yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. And really what it was I just saw the pattern, like I saw that like it starts here, you skip one, skip another, and then go up one, which we now know is C, A minor, F, and G. And so I was just like, well, what if I, skip the second chord and go to the fourth chord and then the second chord and then the third chord. And that sounded just like Let It Be. So I was like, shit. So I'm like, okay, so fucking John Lennon is like, and Paul, that was a Paul song, like, basically Let It Be is Heart and Soul, Inside Out. So I'm like, okay, cool.
Holy shit. Never realized
so what if I go from the first chord to like the third chord, then the second chord, and it sounded like something I'd never heard before. And so I was like, okay, this is dope. And so that's when I wrote my first song, basically with like the 4 Heart and Soul chords, but just in my own pattern.
Yeah, yeah.
Meanwhile, like that progression that I, discovered that day is like a very famous progression. Obviously, like hundreds of songs have been written with it. But when I was 8, like I was like, this song's new. Yeah. It's like I only really knew Let It Be and Beatles songs,
My first song that I learned on guitar was Wild Thing, E, A, B minor.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, did you do the minor chord?
Actually,
a lot of people don't know about that.
Yeah, truth be told, I think I played the D. I think I went A. I think I first learned E, A, D. Sure. And then it was game on because I was like, well, I mean, you can kind of do this any way you want.
Fuck yeah, dude.
And then I learned bar chords. Then once I learned bar chords, I was like,
that's it. Like you can do it all. How old were you?
Like not high school yet. 13. Probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
Same. Yeah. Like my dad. So I'm left-handed, and my dad I'm like very left-handed, but
you play. Wow,
he wouldn't let me learn on I play right-handed because he had a Telecaster, and so he said, learn on this. He's like, if you're ever at a party, they're never going to have a left-handed guitar, so just learn on my guitar. I'm so grateful because I've never been to a party with a left-handed guitar like that. He was so right, dude. Of all the parties we have been to, nary a left-handed guitar. So
you're never. No way,
but what's funny is, it's such an ambidextrous instrument. So like, I learned my bar chords really easily because my dominant hand's on the neck.
Wow, yeah.
So like, I learned bar chords like super fast, and so my left hand is really strong and like bending. Like I can do some kind of cool bendy shit, but I've never been a good finger picker because it's my right hand on the string. So like, which I guess is why your dominant hand is supposed to be the picking hand.
I can't pick, man. I'm embarrassed to say it.
You know a pattern? You got a pattern or something that you can do?
Sorta. Yeah. It's a faking my way type pattern. I just kind of twiddle my fingers a little bit and hope that they hit some strings. Great. But also, I don't read music. I'm a little bit ashamed to say that.
I ended up going through like all 5 piano teachers in my small town because I never wanted to practice and none of them knew what to do with me. It was like the weirdest thing because like all I did was play piano. Like I loved it, but I wanted to make up my own music. And so I didn't want to practice Beethoven, I didn't like reading. It was like, felt like such a chore, but I was on the piano all day. Like if I was at home, I was on the piano. So like finally the last piano teacher we got to, Judith Abbott, rest in peace. She helped harness sort of my creativity. And so like for like the Christmas recital, she would let me do my own version of Let It Snow.
That's rad.
Everyone else was just like, no, you have to do it this way and we can't help it.
Right.
You know? And then I had my guitar teacher, this dude, Trig Ward. His name was Trig, Trig.
Whoa,
and he was an old blues man. And he was like the guy in my town, Trig Ward. And
Texas Blues Man.
Texas Blues Man, dude. And he had like a hollow body 335. Yeah. He looked just like B.B. King. Kind of overweight, just kind of a beast. And like he always smoked inside the house and shit. And so like you leave your lesson like smelling like smoke. But I just loved him. Man. And he was so sensitive and so sweet. I did lessons with him for about a year. Like he showed me, certain licks and stuff. And I think, the song I really learned was like Green River or something by CCR, like classic.
Right, yeah.
But when I was leaving Trig's house one day, there was a bulletin board by the door and there was a kid with a bass guitar that was like next to him, and the bass guitar was as tall as him. So it was like this kid that was my age. And so this must have been a few weeks after the skating rink incident where I heard Smells Like Teen Spirit. And I knew I needed a band. And I also learned that Nirvana was just a trio. So I was like, and I love Jimi Hendrix Experience, also a trio. So I'm like, really, all you need is like guitar, bass, and drums. So I'm leaving Trig's house, and I'm like, Trig, who's this guy with the bass? And he said, that's Ryan Green. Do you want me to give you his number? And I was like, yes, sir, please. And so I got Ryan Green's phone number, called him up, and I was like, hey, man, my name's Ben. I write songs. Start a band.
Way.
Let's start a band.
That is so cool.
And so Ryan came over, and he was a killing bass player, dude. I mean, we were so young, like 12, 13, 14. I think he was like 13. I might have been 12, about to turn 13. But anyway, long story short, Ryan comes over, super adept musician for being so young.
Oh, yeah.
And at that time, it's like early 90s. So like all bass players had to like slap, like slap bass was like such a thing, which was not an aesthetic that I was into. But I was into the fact I now knew a kid that knew how to play the shit out of a bass. So I show him some of my songs, and I'm like, we really need a drummer. Do you know any drummers? He's like, yeah, actually, there's this great drummer, John David Kent, who lives up the road from me. And so I got John's number. I call him up, and I'm like, hey, dude, my name's Ben. I write songs. and I'm like, I really want to put together a band. And, I just jammed with Ryan Green. We could be a band, blah, blah, blah. And John says,
cold calls,
dude,
man.
Cold calls, bro. I was hungry. Brendan.
So badass.
So I just call him, and he turns me down. He says, oh, man, I'm kind of burnt out of music, dude. He's like, the last band I was in, the singer really like let us down. We had a big Valentine's Day show at the school, and, he didn't show up for the gig, and now I'm like retiring from music. Meanwhile, he's like 14 years old. And he's retiring.
Disgruntled. He's all bitter and cynical.
Jade. And so we hang up. Oh, and I remember I told him, like, I thought this would be a good, like, sales pitch to be in my band, because I was telling him about my songs. And I said, they're like they'd be really fun for playing drums. Like, there's a lot of stops in them.
Hell yeah.
So anyway, John gets off the phone after turning me down, and I guess his dad was in the other room and overheard the conversation. And Mr. Kent was like, John, who was that? And he said, oh, just some kid that like wants to start a band. And I told him I don't want to be in a band anymore. And David said, man, you should go over there and just like, you never know, like you might have fun, And so John called me back and said, all right, hey, dude, I'll come over. Let's jam.
My dad said I can jam.
So John comes over and Ryan comes over, and I show him one of my first songs, which was called Roller Coaster. Like, life's a roller coaster, bro. You better not fall out type lyrics.
Yeah.
You know, dude.
Yes. Hell yeah.
And so we go right into it. And this drummer, I mean, we had like an instant musical connection. And so we started a band and like had a few different bands from that. And that basically eventually became the band Radish. So
those two guys?
Yeah, but the bass player, Ryan, ended up having to leave the band. It was really quite sad because, I would cold call people, and like to get gigs, like I would just look in the yellow pages. And so we started playing in my hometown. Like basically in my town, there were no bars or clubs. So I called like the bowling alley to see if we could come play a gig, and they'd say, hell no, we're a bowling alley. And then I'd call like the putt golf place. And finally there was a billiards, like a pool hall called Chauncey's Place. And I called him and was like, hey, I have a band. And he was like, well, He's like, are you guys any good? And I said, yes, sir, we're really good. And I said, in fact, I'll play you a song over the phone right now.
No way.
And he kind of laughed, because he's like, this guy's probably like an old man and like talking to this like 12-year-old, 13-year-old kid. And so he's kind of chuckling and he was like, yeah, play me a song. And so like I put the phone, between my neck and my shoulder and I sang him a song over the phone. And he was like, that is pretty good. I'll tell you what, I'll give you guys Thursday night next week. And so that's how we got our first gig.
You were so entrepreneurial.
Just trying to get out there. And so eventually we played in Dallas. And yeah, Rad. I don't know where I was trying to tie it into something because we were talking about Radish. But yeah, that's how it all started for me.
I'm impressed at your work ethic, man. I don't have any type of stories like that. I was mostly, deer in the headlights the whole time, like coming up, just like, oh, this band didn't work out. This guy got grounded. We can't play the gig. Oh, all right, whatever. I'll just go back into my bedroom and record these demos. I'd make copies of my demos and hand out to my friends and shit,
Was Smart Bomb your first band you were in?
Yeah, that was the first band. And, we went through a few different variations. We were then called Dogborn.
That's cool.
At some point. And we'd play punk shows. The go-getter in the band was the singer, Andrew, my friend Andrew Kemp. He was my best friend growing up. He also turned me on to great music. He was the guy that left a cassette tape at my house one time, and it was Minor Threat on one side and the Exploited on the other. I think that's what kind of got my wheels turning. Like, these are kids doing this. This is like kids like me that are playing this music. Like, I could do this.
Yep.
It was a great time. But I was still I was just the guitar player and not really, not thinking about writing songs at all,
Yeah.
In fact, I did finally, I did kind of just do it myself because the bands didn't work out ever. So I just was like, fuck it, I can make these recordings myself. But I never really wanted to be a solo artist. I always wanted to be in a band.
Yeah, I know.
And in fact, when I first got signed and the label asked me, well, what are you going to call it? Like we hadn't even really talked about it. Like, are you going by your name or, and I was like, no, no, it's going to be a band name. It's going to be something cool. Just give me a minute. I'll think of something, And I never could think of.
Yeah, it's so hard. That's the hardest thing in music is coming up with a band name. That has to be the hardest thing.
The one name that I almost went with was Spanish. I wanted to call it Spanish.
That's cool.
I know. I think it is kind of cool now still, but I chickened out at the last minute. I'm like, gosh, is that cool? I don't know if that's good or not. You know what? Fuck it. I'll just call it Brendan.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of cool because it's like a broad spectrum, dude. It's something that spans.
Ooh, Spanish.
It's Spanish, bro.
Also, it kind of
That's kind of like radish. You think it's the vegetable, but it's not radish. Like it's not the vegetable. Right. It's just that we were like it's pretty rad.
Radish.
Like, kind of
You're like radish.
Yeah, we're like sort of rad. Like
that's genius. I love that.
Spanish and radish.
It is the hardest thing to do in music, I think, is name something.
Yeah, like I'm trying to figure out my new album title. Because I'm like working on my new album, and
that's fun though. Album titles are fun, I think.
They are. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not the band name is that's the crux, dude. That's the hard shit. Which is a big reason why I'm a solo artist today. Probably mainly because I couldn't come up with a band name.
Yeah.
God.
That's why you couldn't come up with a band name. I love
pretty
that.
much. You know, it's like, I moved to New York. Radish sort of broke up. And I was like writing more autobiographical music, like definitely like more of a personal flavor. And in New York, I was in my apartment. I looked around the room and no one else was there. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll be Ben Kweller.
Where were you in New York? Where was your stomping grounds?
In Cobble Hill, Carroll Gardens, Brooklyn.
Oh,
in Brooklyn.
Okay. Yeah.
Some cool neighborhoods there. Like kind of not Williamsburg, the other part of town. But yeah, man, and life on the road.
God, you remember playing that gig? I think we were in Los Angeles at a record store. I mean, it wasn't it was an in-store.
Like an in-store?
Yeah, it was an in-store. We were on tour together.
Yep.
And I love that tour. That was so much fun, by the way. That
was
great
fun.
Memories.
Yeah.
You guys were so cool, so good to us, and so friendly, and it was great. And I learned a lot. In fact, I was awestruck, by the way. Maybe I've never told you this. Now is probably a good time. But I was so kind of enamored by you, with you. I don't know. You were such a great musician and a great performer. I mean, still are, but at the time, I just remember thinking that. And then we did this in-store. I had my acoustic, you had yours. I went on first, played my songs, played, my whatever 4 or 5 songs, thought I killed it, got a good response.
Yeah.
And then you fucking got up there, and at some point, dude, you were like hanging on the rafters, I think. You were like in another room singing the song.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the PA went out maybe, and you were like, the whole crowd was singing the song.
Jesus.
It was so
That's
cool, man. Like, and I was like, damn, this kid just doesn't fucking miss, man.
Oh, thank you. Well, I fucking loved you, man. The second I heard Lapalco.
We were fast friends.
Yeah, we were.
I don't even know how we met, by the way.
I remember getting Lapalco. Someone sent it to me. I think it was Jackie Nowpant, my booking agent.
Oh, cool.
And was like, you should check this guy out because you guys would probably love each other.
Yeah.
And then I heard it and I was like, yeah, hello. And
Cool.
so then, and we were looking for people to tour with for, because Shasha had just come out.
Yeah.
And I was like, see if he wants to go on tour. And sure enough, you did. And so that was fun.
Fuck yeah. You had a great band, too.
Mike Stroud.
Yes,
Who
dude. That guy's a
then
fucking beast.
He's a beast. He went on to form Rat-a-tat.
Right, Rat-a-tat. I thought he was so cool, too, man. He was kind of had that mystique, too.
Bruh, totally. Such a vibe.
Yeah.
I love it.
And remember, we called you the Nuzzler.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you were very...
I just nuzzle
You were very
up, dude.
affectionate. Yeah, you were very affectionate, man. It was really cool.
The Nuzzler. I love that.
I don't even know if that's a word, nuzzle.
No, but I like to nuzzle. Nuzzle. It's like, oh, man. Well, dude, it's so fun talking to you today.
You too, man. Really fun.
There's so much more I'd love to talk about. We might have to do like a part 2, but
Let's do it.
It was so good to see you, and I'm psyched to see you over South by Southwest.
Yeah, man. Couple weeks.
We have the big noise company party, which you're playing at and I'm playing at. That's at Mohawk on March 15th. Yep.
Very excited.
Yeah, dude.
But I'm excited just to kind of sit back too and watch you guys.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun time. And you'll be rolling down in your Suburban, which I'm excited to see. So
That's right. Cool. Suburban and kids in tow.
Boom.
Bringing the kids. We're making it a family affair. We're gonna. I'm gonna get Declan on merch to take your cue.
That's the move. You got to have the children sell the merch. They sell so much more merch than regular merch sellers.
I love it.
So it's like, because if your fans are like, oh, you're Brendan's kid? Oh,
no way. Yeah.
I'll take everything.
Let me take 3 of those. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Well, there you have it, folks. Brendan Benson.
That concludes our time together, folks.
Thank you, my man. I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Benny. See you soon, man. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Talkhouse Podcast, and thanks to Ben Kweller and Brendan Benson for chatting. If you liked what you heard, please follow Talkhouse on your favorite podcasting platform, and check out all the great stuff at talkhouse.com. This episode was produced by Myron Kaplan, and the Talkhouse theme is composed and performed by The Range. See you next time.